Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. We're in Blackfriars in the Merchant City, where Tommy Sheridan and I will be talking to Chris Bungard. Welcome back onto A Celtic State of Mind, Chris. It's been 4 years since you were last on the show. How's it been over the last 4 years?
It's been an eventful journey so far. In and out the cage. For some great wins on some big, massive shows, big arenas, for some tough losses, and my father as well now, so got a wee girl, so I love my life, I love everything about it, even the ups and the downs, like, that's just what molds kind of my story in my life, and I couldn't be happier, to be fair.
You know, when we were speaking before, one of the things I took away from that was where you were talking about losses and defeats. You didn't pour over them, you didn't regret them because it was part of your journey. Is that still your state of mind?
Yep, 100%. There's definitely some fights that I maybe shouldn't have took. I took some world title fights in short notice and stuff like that, and I think if I didn't take them, I would still be annoyed that I passed up the chance and stuff like that. So it's just part of my story, as I say, it's part of my journey, and it's cliche to say, but you just learn so much more from stuff like that. You as a person, as a character, what you need to work on in life and what you need to work on in the gym and stuff like that, and just how to get that wee bit better every day, and that's a fight game, and that's life in general, man.
What's your take on that, Tommy? Because I know you've played football, you've been involved in politics, you've had defeats. How have you dealt with them yourself? Has it galvanised you?
I feel as though you've kicked me in the arse there, you know. You've had defeats. I've had more defeats than I've had victories, Paul John. No, I think Chris is absolutely right. You learn often more about yourself in defeats than you do in victories, because that's when the character comes out. I think it was Muhammad Ali who probably learned it from somebody else, but he always made the point that you never ever judge the character of a man by how many times you get knocked down. It's how many times you get back up that determines your character and defines you as a person. And I think that's life. And you know, I met this man in a dressing room about to play in a game, a charity game for Dukla Pumferson, and I'd never met him before, but I immediately had an affinity with him. We got on really well. I just took to him. He had such a warm character, and root in the park, he was a useful player as well, by the way. Fit as fucking the butcher's dog, up and down the line, doing all my running, which was brilliant. And it was helpful to know that if any of the boys had fucking bullied me, that the big man would have been there to help me out. No, lovely guy, absolutely lovely guy. But I've got to say, the sport he's in is just probably the most challenging of all sports, Paul John. I mean, I've done a wee bit of white collar boxing, and I loved it, and I would recommend it to anybody that wants to sort of mark that off and the wee bucket list of things. It's going into a ring, somebody's trying to look if you daft. You've got to defend yourself. It's something that you train for, and it's something that you enjoy. But there's rules and there's gloves.
Yeah.
This guy, knees, elbows, grabbing you down in the deck. Oh, I just find it absolutely frightening to think about that pentagon, to get into that cage. One guy did it to me up in Dunfermline, a boy, Davey, lovely guy. He was right into the jiu-jitsu, and he was putting on a show. You might remember the guy, the gym, and he was putting on this big show, and he'd asked me to come up to do a wee bit of publicity and go into the cage. I thought I could, box a wee bit, but boxing was nothing, because he just grabbed me and popped me down, had me in a submission right away. So I admire the strength and the courage of people like Chris. And what I love, Paul John, was what Chris said about the mixed martial arts in his last interview, and I think it's dead important to get this across, and that is about the whole idea of discipline. Teaching you discipline, because what I hate is the idea of it being portrayed as some form of, I'm going to teach myself and then I'm going to go out and bully somebody, right? Because I think these guys would never bully anybody, because they've got so much respect for their bodies, for their sport, and for their competitors. So please, anybody that is thinking about MMA, do it for the right reasons. Do it because you want some discipline, you want to look after your body. Don't do it so you can become an arsehole.
I think sometimes when you see a bully coming in the front door, MMA actually changes them. That makes them a better person because they get humbled and they can actually see when people are trying to help people. So I've been in the gym a few times. You get the new guy coming in picking on the lesser guys, and I'm like, I'll go with you next. Not me, I'll go with you next, and then they're like, wow, that was a humbling experience here. And then you can see the next time they go with that younger person or the person that's smaller or less experienced than them, they go light and then they try and help them, and that's I've seen that many a times. A bully walking in and then no being a bully after that, you know what I mean? So it can change people that have a different mind frame going in as well. So that's a plus.
The one thing that intrigues me, Tommy, it's hard enough to have one discipline and concentrate on one discipline. Can you imagine having the multiple? And I think the emphasis is to be on art. It's a martial art, you know, and a lot of that's up here as well, isn't it?
See now, MMA is only like 20, 30 years old. It's not been going for that long. I'm sure it was like 93 or 94, like UFC first started, and they started bringing in. It used to be if you were good at one discipline, so you would be a boxer up against a wrestler. That was it. Now, these days, you get these young athletes in my gym and in all the gyms all over the world. They're good everywhere. They come in, they're young, 14, 15, 16, 17. They're great grapplers. They're great strikers. They're conditioned. They're already mind switched on. They're eating good. They're good nutrition. At that age, crazy. Some of these, what age are you using in the gym? They're like 16. They're brilliant everywhere, you know what I mean? So that just shows you how much the sports grew over the years as well. And sometimes I coach as well. I'm coaching young boys to like come out their shell, and their parents are coming to me like they're in school, they're shy. Few months down the line, they're like they're came out their shell, and that's what fucking I love that shit.
Well, mate, because you said that on your last interview 4 years ago about how it improved confidence for young people, and it dropped a coin in me right away, because when I was 12, 13, I wanted to go to boxing. And my old man worked in the Rolls Royce in Hillerton, and he worked with a guy called Dick McTaggart, and Dick was a bronze medal holder, won the Olympic bronze for Scotland at the boxing, and he ran the club. It was in my local area, Crooks and Castle School, and my dad said to him, he says, my boy wants to come to the boxing, and he says to him, listen, Tommy, because my dad was called Tommy, so he says, listen, Tommy, your boy's quite a good looking wee boy. Tell me to go to karate. He'll end up getting his nose broken at boxing. And by the way, that's what happened. I went to karate. But the point I'm going to make is, I learned so much in the karate. Shotokan did. My self-discipline, my confidence, everything improved. And that's, I tuned in what you said the last time, Chris. I think it's absolutely spot on. But I take my hat off to you, as I say, in terms of the courage. I fought at karate, I fought at the boxing, and it's very nerve-wracking. You've went in. I mean, I think you've over 40 fights.
43.
40. He's went in with guys who quite literally could knock his head off, you know, and you have to be conditioned, eh?
Yeah. That's it. It's my last fight there, like, I fought a guy for Rio, good Brazilian, good black belt, and you weigh in together. Like, this guy missed weight by a country mile, but he flew in for Rio. I was fighting in Glasgow. It was a big night for me. I'm like, I trained hard. I'm like, I was always going to take a fight. He missed weight by a country mile, but then 24 hours later, you're in the cage. He's clearly rehydrated and refueled even bigger. And you're looking across the cage, and he is huge. First time you see him, like, shorts on, like, he's bulky, side of a double decker, you know what I mean? Like, and you're in the cage, like, great, that's it. You need to fight, you know what I mean? That's why you're there. Good black belt, so I'm a black belt as well. So you're like, hey, like, but once you get some tappy, then you can feel all this extra weight. So, that's just part of the game, though. Like, I've always enjoyed fighting. I've always loved the competition of being up against another man and seeing whose skill set's better. I've got the toughest. I know I'm tough. I'd fight anybody. But when you're in there, you're on the bottom, the crowd's chanting your name. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're gassed. Guy's too heavy. Maybe you've took a bit of damage, or you took an elbow, a punch, a kick. Keep getting took down. Can you get back up? A lot of questions. You start getting asked a lot of questions in your mind. How bad do you want it? You need to get fucking up. There's a guy in the front row telling you to get up. I know I need to get up. Get up, just get up, Chris. There's this 80-pound guy, 80-kilo guy tapping it. You know, like I want to get up, you know what I mean? So it challenges you mentally. But
How long is that? 5 minutes. How long is that for me? 5 minutes and 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
you know what the good thing is when you've got some of your coolest teammates that shout 3 minutes, Chris. Like, don't tell me there's 3. I want to know when there's 10 seconds left. I want to hear the clapper. If I'm stuck in the bottom, I don't want to hear 3 minutes to go. You know what I mean? That's too long. Cut it down to a minute, maybe a minute to go. But it just you just get challenged mentally, and I feel in my MMA game, my strongest point is my mental toughness. Like I feel because of the guys, my upbringing was it's a bit rough and hard doing that, but all the way through my childhood, then all the hard fights I've had, the weight cuts I've had, I just know that I've got that toughness up there, and that'll never leave until I retire. So that's always a good thing to always have.
What about injuries, Chris? What's the worst injury you've had?
So only two big ones. This has got to be horrible.
Oh no, I should have asked.
Aye.
I'm going to either get a puke bag.
But as an amateur, I fought in Dunfermline. I fought the best guy in Scotland that nobody wanted to fight. I was fresh. I said I'll fight him. I got caught in a submission, and at the point, it was a ring I was in a cage. They used a ring one night. It was on a stage in the Alhambra Theatre, and my body was hanging. I was caught in a submission. My legs were hanging out the ring, so I had no weight on them. And instead of choking me, I went for a Kimura submission, which means kind of like the old Polish grip up there.
Oh no,
Right.
Oh,
Snapped, humerus.
oh no!
Clean.
Come on,
Clean, yep.
seriously.
Yep. And then last year, I had 2 herniated discs at the bottom of my spine, and I could not walk, I couldn't train, and I still fought, and I still won. That's the guy who I'm fighting in the trilogy. So they're the 2 biggies, the humerus and my spine. The spine one, I wouldn't wish that my worst enemy. I was in Rio, I couldn't go to bed.
So you were in Rio at the time when this injury happened?
I was getting a massage on the beach, right? No funny business. And it must have, I don't know if it was any day with it. Maybe it was coming anyway, and I just loosened it off. But the next day, man, for a year, and that year, I just had to, like, all I could do was walk my friend's dog. I couldn't train, I couldn't grapple, I couldn't bend. I was in pain for a year, like proper
When
pain.
was this?
So I fought last April, and it was that year there. Before then,
So you're really now
fine now.
just getting back into
So I had
fighting fitness.
I had to go and get my spine decompressed every day just so I could fight. So I got strapped in. It was down the West End, Cram it was called. I had to get strapped to this board, and it actually put me flat, and then it stretched me out every day, and then decompressed my spine every day just so I could fight, because I didn't want to pull out the fight. I never pull out, and I actually won the fight. It was great. I can't really know how I won the fight. It stayed in the feet a lot, but I actually won the fight, man, with my spine being absolutely ruined, man. So I knew that's another thing. If I can do that, I know I can do
realised
it.
here, we might have to edit this because you've got fight next March.
Yep.
And whoever he's fighting,
Yep.
going to be watching this, he's going to go for that spine. We might have to edit this because we're giving away things.
Good luck to him.
Although,
He was the guy that
right,
He was the guy I fought with the bag.
because that's what I was going to
Is
say.
that right?
It's one each.
Right.
He beat me in the hydro,
Right.
and then I beat him there.
So,
This is a decider.
if he does go for the spine, you'll know that he's going for it, and you'll have something to counter him.
Oh no, there's one extra viewer, know what I mean? But injury, that's all. You go for your body. You get wee niggles, wee knees. Your knees goes, your toes, your fingers, shoulders sore. But they were the serious ones. That was an amateur 14 years ago. That was last year. So, and then there'll be more. There'll be more. But I keep showing up every day. I'm still motivated. I still love the sport, and I'm still getting better, and I'm still happy. So
I love the fact he's doing the coaching now.
Yeah.
Because you've got a right good character about you, Chris, and hopefully you'll impart that to some young people, particularly young people that maybe be lost. And I think you've said it before that if you hadn't been doing this road, you may have been doing a different road, and it may have been a darker road.
100%.
So I just hope that your lived experience can maybe put some young guys on a better
I know
path.
for a fact it will. 100% will. Well, when I retire, I'm looking to open my own gym. I feel like the experience I can pass on to being in the fire, being in the trenches and fights and jiu-jitsu, I feel I can pass that on to younger generations. Kids come through the door, there's some kids every day come through the door learning at all ages, and I would love one day to have my own gym.
Brilliant.
That's the plan anyway.
You know, you can teach techniques, Chris, and how to train and how to eat and prepare your body. Do you think you can do that with a mindset with the up and coming kids that you're training just now?
It will be tough, but I feel like you would need to get in there early, because mental and heart and stuff like that that's for you. That comes for you.
Yeah.
But if you start coaching them early and maybe showing them why you would do stuff like that, or why you need to use your head in certain scenarios of being tough, to say, I think they could grow into stuff like that. But if you get them when they're a bit older and coming in, you don't know the life they've lived.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You don't know their backstory. They've never been pampered their full life. And then people get that. Like, mums and dads should protect their children and give them what they want. But I feel like they need a bit, because the life's tough. Outside the doors, you go to Glasgow on a weekend, you go on the train, the bus, like, that's a different world out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think if you catch it early enough, I think you could teach heart and being mentally strong to young kids, but it's just all depends on them as
You
well.
started quite old, because
Yeah,
21
21, aye.
right?
I just played amateur football.
It's incredible, because
Yeah.
the whole that boxing thing, I still do a wee bit of one-to-one with the coach, and every single time he's telling me about my stance and how my stance isn't right. And I say to him, I can't learn that, because I can tell him about marking somebody goal side, and I can talk through football, no problem. But see, if you haven't learned those boxing techniques as a kid, very difficult to pick up. So if you could get 15 and 16 and 17-year-olds, you might be able to give that a wee bit more.
That's it, man. That's the path that I feel like I'm going to go down once I retire. But
The thing as well, Chris, I always think about your background coming from, let's say, working class areas, which I think the three of us have. And sometimes the outlet was a game of football or maybe a boxing club. I went to the football, I've got to say. I never really,
I
was too scared to get in a ring with anybody. But it was the outlet. So these wee working class areas, mining villages in Fife, that was your outlet. But unfortunately, it's getting more and more difficult for kids to get in to these areas. And the very fact, Tommy, that Chris is saying that he'll open a gym, it would be tremendous in every one of these wee estates and schemes. There was already a gym. There was already an outlet.
No, there's no doubt about it. We were discussing earlier before coming here with another friend about the problems with street playing. You know, when we were younger, now Chris isn't as old as me, or I don't think he's old. As you either.
street football, the guy.
But what I was going to say was,
Best
there
days
was
of my life.
motors. Wasn't a big problem, because there was so few motors on the road. And then the boy Stephen made a point to me about how when we were younger, we used to hit the ball off people's walls or gates or whatever, and people, there was a bit of tolerance about it. Now, if anybody hits the ball off your gate or whatever, they're like, oh, what's going on there? And I remember being a counsellor. I had been in Pollock hanging about the closes. That's what we did. We hung about the closes. We played football in the closes. And then there was a counsellor, I had people coming to my surgery saying, you need to do something, but these boys are all hanging about the closes. And I'm like, what's that sound? And it's such a situation now where there's so little tolerance sometimes of young people being young people, Chris.
No. I used to stay in a flat and we had a close, and like we used to hang about the closes, whatever, right? But see, the older I got, and then I would come into my close and there were young ones in, I'm like, get
Exactly.
if they were drinking or smoking, like,
It's
like,
just the way it goes, Paul.
do you want a hypocrite?
It's I feel hypocritical, because I'm then, as a counsellor, going to see these young boys and saying, listen, boys, you need to leave it. Oh, what are we going to do, Tommy? And the problem was, Paul John, and this goes back to the whole thing about cuts. The first thing councils cut everywhere is youth support. I mean, when I was first a counsellor way back in the 90s, we used to have loads of youth support programs so that young people would be paid to go out and engage with other young people, get them involved in table tennis or playing darts or going to football. What's the first thing that goes when a council cuts? Get rid of all the youth stuff. So where do all the young people go? They end up starting getting involved in crime.
No, they get rid of these grass pitches and they fire the AstroTurf fans down, and then they charge them a bomb to try and
Brilliant point.
Why not just let the guys play for free, or like build grass pitches and let them play there instead of try to charge, like some of the 4G, 5G parks are crazy.
Fortune.
Book
So
for an hour,
short-sighted.
just an hour or whatever, know what I mean?
I always go back. We, many moons ago, interviewed Jock Brown, and he spoke about his brother after the '98 World Cup. the SFA had a pot of gold. They had a pot of money and they were looking as to how to spend it, right? So Craig Brown's idea, visionary, was to have 50 all-weather free football parks erected in Scotland. Like, they call them muggers. Is it muggers? Multi-use gaming arena, something like that. And that's what he wanted to do. And it cost £1 million per park. And it would be all around Scotland. So wherever you were, within a radius, you could find a park, you could get a game of football. And the SFA decided in their wisdom to pump all the money into Hampden and build offices and a newsstand and all this kind of stuff.
Zero parks.
0 parks out of that money. And that was 98. And only until recently, we did not compete at that level again. We've never competed at the World Cup final since then. Other forward-thinking nations have done just that. Japan, for example. So they're in 25 or 30 years into a 100-year programme. Believe it or not, they've got the vision for 100 years, whereas Scotland, it's all short-termism, isn't it? So we'll lose the talent. We lose a lot. How much talent, Tommy, has been lost in the last 25, 30 years that we don't even know about, you know? So the fact that you're going to give kids an outlet, I think, is commendable. It really is. But you've got a few years on you yet. Fighter, haven't you?
Aye, that's it.
How long do you go generally in your game?
Well, we were speaking about that, like the UFC last night of the weekend, the heavyweight title fight. John Jones, the greatest ever, 38 against Stipe, 42. Stipe's a fireman, I know. Good backstory with him, but that's the highest level. And you can see people going into the late 30s, but I've had 43 fights and I always wanted to have 50. So if my body's got 7 more in me, which could take 2 or 3 years, I think that's plenty for me. But I can still feel it now when you're up against the younger guys in the gym. You're trying to keep up with them, and they're so athletic and good everywhere now. And you can see, because I've got 10 years on some of them. You know what I mean? I was training with them with 10 years still, so you can still feel the body. The recovery takes longer. Small injuries take longer. Bringing the weight down takes a bit more effort now. So it's either stay where I'm at or maybe move up weight for the last couple to like a higher weight. But I still feel more motivated more than I've ever been in my life, and I'm coming to 44 fights. So won't make continue for the next 2 or 3 years, but I would say like 36 is probably 35, 36 is the number to like prime and basically retire for MMA fighting. But you do see the odd guy going to like aiming towards 40 and still fighting at a high level. So if I can do that, then I will do it. But if my body says no, then I know like I'm smart enough to say I'm good. You know what I mean? I don't need to cripple myself to have one more fight, or unless we're going somewhere and it's a title fight, maybe it's an American fight or somewhere like that, then I'd be like, I've got that in me. But I'm always honest with myself, and sometimes I'm brutally honest, which you can't really need to be. So I'll always step up when it comes to that.
Talking about going to America, and before we started filming here, you were talking about some of your other journeys.
Yeah.
Where do you most enjoy? Have you felt an affinity where you've landed in one of these places and you've thought, wow, I belong here?
California.
Is it?
Like, I've went about 10 times now.
Wow.
But I love travelling. I love going to another country, hiring a car, putting my favourite songs on and just hitting the road and stopping at these wee towns, these wee pockets you would never find yourself in. There are probably a few serial killers in these wee pockets somewhere, but I just love stopping, trying the food, meeting new people. Oh, like they'll see you're from Scotland or whatever. No understand you, man, but you start turning your accent a wee bit more American. Chris. Oh, Chris, right? They get it like that right away. So I love California, but I do love America. I've drove the full lot of America.
Seriously?
And obviously I told you I've got a short hobby film location, so I like going to all the places where all my favourite films are filmed and getting a wee photo or a wee video and then on to the next state or on to the next country or something like that.
Chris,
I've
you've
been
got a YouTube future. Never mind a fighting future.
I've been in some, it's took me to some dodgy places though, like I don't want to bore you, but I've been held at gunpoint in America, Rio and the favelas. I've been some sketches.
It's no boring.
Aye.
Tell us more.
I would tell you one. You want one story? I don't want to go too long, but I've been. I'll tell the training day one. I'll tell them the.
This is the film scene
Training day.
for training day.
So Denzel Washington, my favourite actor, right? And really, the scene he does the King Kong ain't got shit on me. The last scene at the end where he's in the cul-de-sac and all the gangs there. So I'm like, I'll go there. I was in LA myself in my car. I'm like, go there. I'll jump out. One and done. I call it a snap. One and done with the location is, right? So it's like a. Then I found out Denzel and I had to get permission for the street for the gangs to film there. So instantly I'm like, right, it's not a nice place, right? So I'm driving in, see somebody coming across. They've got a trolley and all. It's just straight at the film site, right? So I'm getting to the end. The cul-de-sac's down the bottom where the scene was filmed. Bang on the middle of the road, there's 2 police cars with the doors already open, like abandoned. And I'm like, great, it's so hot, man, I'm sweating, right? So, like, in the side of the road, there's like a lineup with guns. So there's like gang members are getting like searched or whatever, but the guns are out and the cars are open. So I'm here, so I need to squeeze by them. But the window's down and I'm left-hand drive. They're all here. Scottish. Sorry guys, and I'll just look at me like this. So I squeeze by the motor. I'm like, fuck it, I'm here now. Jump out with my big camera. One and done. Take a photo, jump back in the car, come back, squeeze by them again. Sorry guys, me again, know what I mean? They're just all looking. But as I jumped out down the bottom, their friends must have been doing a bit and they're all like, fuck you pigs, and they're shouting polo at it, and there's hunters in them, and as I jump out to take a photo, they're all just look at me and I'm just like back in the car, back in and just drove away basically, sweating. And as soon as I got out, I just phoned my girlfriend like, it's always been you don't believe it. So that happened there. I got physically held at gunpoint in Rio in the favelas trying to get a location as well. I went into a favela I wasn't supposed to go into.
What film was this?
Way a tour. It was actually 2 films. It was Triple Frontier, Fast and the Furious, and there was a Michael Jackson statue because he shot a music video. Just can't. They don't really care about us. They shot that. So the steps he went up, I took a picture there, and somebody came out of nowhere. And he seen me taking the photo and he thought I was taking a photo of him, and guns were out right away. I got took to the president of the favela. I had a tour guide with me and he was flashing his lanyard and they just weren't having it, and the guy like stuck a gun right in my chest and that, and I was like, that's it, that's me, that's my time, I took my tees out. And I couldn't understand then. The guys were just, and we were trying to say, like, Michael Jackson statue, and they were putting guns over the statue and everything. And they eventually let me go. I got stopped at the bottom again, same again, guns again, man. So these are just, there's another hunter stories I don't even want to get into, but the locations, it takes me to some dodgy places.
So this is a hobby of yours, so you, films that you've watched and you like, you say to yourself, I'm going to go to wherever.
I'll plan a holiday through that. Like last week I was in Boston, done all the Boston films that I love, and then went to the hockey and stuff. I fucking plan it. It's like movie tourism type thing.
That's brilliant. You're right. That is definitely a Facebook career.
And there's like the movies everywhere. There are millions of movies that are always getting made, and I love cinema. I love watching movies, and it's a passion of mine. So it's just another wee hobby, but it has took me to some sketchy places, and there's been.
You're going to go way off here. You're going to go way off.
That's fine.
But he's mentioned the films. Chris, I was disappointed on Saturday night.
What did you go and see?
Gladiator
2.
So disappointed.
I've seen it.
I absolutely
I've heard that.
loved Gladiator. I absolutely loved it.
I think the first one is an masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece. And you know what? I'm really disappointed in Ridley Scott because I think it's just been over money.
Should have just left it.
I mean, honestly, there is a scene in it. I'm sorry, we're going away after, but there's a scene in it. Honestly, Colosseum, right? Anybody goes to Italy, Disney visit a Colosseum, you're daft, go and visit Colosseum. Beautiful story, beautiful, incredible skills and talent to build the bloody thing. But they have a scene where they reenact a naval battle and they bring in fucking sharks and they're about to swim in the Colosseum. Sharks. Right. So I'm saying, I'm sitting here and I love Gladiator. I defend Gladiator to anybody as a masterpiece. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, how the fuck did you get the sharks into the Colosseum? How did you transport them? Where did you get them?
Back then,
Fucks. Honestly, it's ruined me.
So what is it then, tanks or what?
That's just the sharks. By the way, they bring out big ships, they're reenacting you know how they reenact the battles, right? Which was brought the Battle of Carthia when blah, blah, blah. And of course, you get Commodus in the first one saying, excuse me, my historical knowledge, but didn't we win at Cartier? You know, because it's all brilliant. I don't know if you've seen the film. It's a fantastic film. But this has ruined it.
They were
Chris.
probably trying,
Ruined it, mate.
because they done the Tigers in the first one, they're trying to outdo that with
Well,
sharks,
they
which sounds
start-
stupid.
The first scene of that character, believe it or not, because the tiger scene,
Yeah,
look at the story, absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant. They have wild baboons.
real.
Wild baboons. Honestly, mate, see, in terms of Ridley Scott and the respect I had for him as a filmmaker, it's went away down.
What about
Because-
Denzel?
I love Denzel. Listen,
Is he good in it?
Denzel's is probably one of the poorest lines in scripts. I mean, anybody watches Equalizer. I mean, fuck's sake. You know, we see when people say, sequels are never as good. I could watch all 3 Equalizers in a row, right, and love them. And The Gladiator, I've probably watched it 7, 8, 9 times. I'd never watch Gladiator 2 again in my life.
Okay.
It's that bad. So, anyway, now you...
Oh, man, that is another Tommy Sheridan reviews. Don't watch.
You start a rain film.
Definitely, Chris. Definitely.
You should have went to Beetlejuice 2, Tommy. You should have gone there.
Was that good?
Brilliant.
Ah, right, okay.
Brilliant. No, but I am interested in that because what I was going to try and tie it in with, Chris, is something that requires so much discipline, where you're basically on it for a long time leading up to a fight. You've got to be focused. The discipline with the training, the diet you were talking about, cold water therapy, all these different like margins. How do you chill out? That's a big thing, isn't it? So movies is one of them.
Yeah.
Music, football, and that comes into all our lives, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the movies, talk us through a couple, because there's quite a few on the walls here, a couple that mean something to you.
Oh man, it means something to me. Like I've got, so there is movies now that I watch quite regularly, and they're no massive movies that people know. I just like kind of the meaning of them and the story. So 2 I'll give you that I've been watching for a couple of years now. I'll stick on maybe once a week. That sounds terrible, right? But once a week, like see films like Green Book. Have you seen Green Book? So you've got the 2 that I like is Green Book and 3 Billboards of Ebbing, Missouri. They mean different meanings. They're not like instant classics with people, but with me, they're just feel good movies for me. And if I'm lying in bed or lying on the couch, I'll always just fire it on. And I don't know if people have even seen the films, but if you haven't, I would suggest to watch them. My favourite directors are easily Quentin Tarantino. Like, that's my guy. Like, he's a bit wild and a bit madness, but I've always loved the films. And Martin Scorsese, obviously. So with them, the new, obviously, when I was in Boston last week, I done the Shutter Island thing. Shutter Island's one of my favourites. Denzel is my favourite actor, but Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, is just good in everything he does. So they are my go-tos, but there's a lot of films that mean more to me than like a blockbuster. Like The Thing, like even like stuff on there, Big Trouble in Little China, John Carpenter, The Thing. I mean, I travelled to Alaska and the top of Canada to go to The Thing location. It's like 10 hours on a road to nowhere. And that you need to go through like a glacier. You go into Alaska, then back out to British Columbia just to get where they filmed John Carpenter. Bears everywhere.
Didn't done that.
Aye, didn't have nothing. Me and my friend didn't have
The
nothing.
bears were shaking themselves.
Honestly, I was petrified because we were going round we were on top of a glacier, so we're walking on a glacier, but there's just signs everywhere for bears, and you couldn't really see any. So I was just like, you could walk around this bush and they'd be just out in nowhere. But I'm fitter than my mate, so I knew I would outrun him. You know what I mean? I just clipped his heels and then just make the phone call. You're like, sorry man, we've lost him.
It's the old meme, innit, when you I don't think we'll be able to outrun that bear, and the mate says to him, I don't need to run out when the bear, I need to outrun you.
It's so true. Scorsese, though, I mean, we were talking to a tremendous actor, David Heyman, a friend of Tommy's, and we were talking about this script that's been kicking about for about 25 years on the birth of Celtic.
Right.
You know, it was written by Peter Mullen, and Daniel Day-Lewis had agreed to play the part
Really?
of Brother Wilfred.
I've got tattooed Daniel Day-Lewis in my leg, actually, Billy the Butcher. Aye. So Peter Millen. Man,
Peter's brilliant.
wow.
Peter's
Man.
brilliant.
Wow.
We're going to get Peter on this show, definitely.
Oh, that would be
Yeah,
great, man.
Peter will come.
Have you seen Session 9? You were talking about asylums. He plays
I've not seen Session.
in a movie called Session 9, and it's set in an asylum,
Right,
an
I'll
American
watch that.
movie. Check
Yeah,
it out.
watch that, definitely.
Yeah. because
You
he's
can't
such a-
mention Daniel Day-Lewis without mentioning In the Name of the Father.
Aye,
Yeah.
of course, man.
In the Name of the
Of
Father.
course. That was
Beautiful. Absolutely.
Peter Postlethwaite.
Pete
aye,
Postlethwaite was absolutely superb in it.
passed away now.
Obviously, people say, oh, it's because Jim Sheridan's directed it. It's based in Jerry Conlon's book.
Mhm.
And I interviewed Jerry afterwards, or years afterwards, and Jerry was disappointed because he felt his book hadn't been stuck to strictly.
Yeah.
Because they merged the Guildford 4 with the Birmingham 6 all in together. And I said to Jerry, Jerry, look, mate, you may have that because it's your story. But can I tell you that people who watch that film no longer believe in British justice after they've watched that
The
film?
message, Tom.
So the
Yeah.
message that Jim Sheridan conveyed
Yeah.
via that film was outstanding. And he was brilliant. Daniel Day-Lewis was absolutely brilliant.
It's a masterpiece, but it makes you angry, man.
Oh,
Can like watch it.
cry as well, Chris.
Aye.
Gail and I, my
The
wife
injustice
and I
of it.
watch it all the time, and tears come down our eyes, but it's tears of rage at what these bastards did and how wee Pepe was killed in jail. His dad died in jail.
Aye.
Horrible injustice.
You know the gangs in New York? Fort Kiernan's in that.
Aye, he's the voice.
Aye.
Aye,
So you've
I
noticed
knew
that?
I knew that.
Fort
Aye.
Kiernan.
Well, another wee story about that is Gary Lewis, or he's called Gary Lewis,
Yeah.
acting wise, but his name's Gary Stevenson.
Aye.
His real name's Gary Stevenson. And Gary and I were involved politics together. Gary Feasterhouse, his old man, beautiful man chick, was a
Is he
councillor.
Who's aye?
Aye, did you not know that? Aye, Gary was brought.
Wait, Billy Elliot's dad?
That's it.
Aye, aye.
That's the man. But my first viewing of Gary as anything was playing John McLean. He played my political muse, John McLean, Scottish socialist, Glasgow socialist, and Gary played him with the Easter House Theatre Company. It was fantastic. But Gary, I met him years and years ago. Gail and I had read to see Gangs in New York, right? And I was over the moon because Gary was in it. Oh, brilliant. Met him in the tune. Just happened to walking through. Gary, how's it going, mate? Brilliant. Really pleased about how your career's going and all the rest. And he says, Tom, I've not worked for 2 years. I says, what, just singing Gangs in New York? He says, that was finished 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It took so long. They shot it, and it took 3 years for it actually to become out. Because, apparently it was like 4 or 5 hours long, and it ended cut. But fantastic movie as well.
You know, you're talking, and you've spoken about this all through your political career, Tommy, about talent coming out of Scotland. We've got so much talent, be that in the arts, football, sport, music, and it's something that we've got to focus on. But I don't think at times they're given the platform. I mean, Chris is talking about having his own gym to give someone else an opportunity in the future. But these things should be available to the kids coming through.
You've got to watch that you don't become overly chauvinistic, right? But at the same token, we've got to watch that we don't blow our own trumpet. Scotland as a nation has fought way above its weight for so long. I mean, the James Watts in the world, we in terms of our bard, our bard, who sings Auld Lang Syne? The whole world sings Auld Lang Syne, written by a Scotsman. We have got so much in terms of penicillin, in terms of roads, in terms of the Macintosh coat, in terms of tyres. For fuck's sake, we've been at the heart of everything that has been about progress. And we don't, in my opinion, we don't appreciate it enough.
No, we need to celebrate it. And we need to realise, Tommy, that we've got enough talent to stand on our own 2 feet. That's a big thing I would take from that. Chris, going back to 4 years ago, we were in a good mood, good energy in the room. We're going for 10 in a row. You remember those days?
Okay.
See, Amy, where did it all go wrong? Where did it all go wrong? Because we were all sitting, everybody in the room. I don't think we were cocky. I think we were confident that we had enough. We had a better squad. We were going to get the 10. Didn't happen.
Of course. Well, look what happened the 9 years before that. Why would you know?
I know.
Think it was coming. But I'll stand on this. Like, a pandemic happened, and there was people. If you sat beside somebody in a plane or a bus journey, you had to isolate because you could have it. And then weekend there was something else. Somebody was missing. The team were dropping. First of all, we didn't start the season good because of that. Ballingolly fucking off, and people had to isolate. We drew to Kilmarnock, or we lost to Kilmarnock on the first day. And then it kept happening, then you're falling behind. Rangers were winning, there was no crowds, the whole Scotland international thing with Tierney's and all them had to miss, and then the Dubai thing, it was a shambles of a season. and I don't really count it as a season. I don't, honestly don't. There was no crowd. You can't play football without crowds, especially if you're used to 50, 60,000 every week. And it was a world pandemic, and I feel sorry for Neil, honestly. Like, I was a massive Neil Lennon fan, still are, I just think Neil Lennon's a great guy. He's a Celtic legend, he's a captain, he's a manager, and the hatred towards him sometimes is unmerited. He had his faults, but I still blame the world pandemic that Celtic didn't get 10 in a row, and now look at us, we're flying, man. We're absolutely flying, and we've lost one league in 14, 15 seasons or something like that. So it's not all bad, but it was running the stars for us that year, and it got cut short.
It was that perfect storm, Tommy, that season.
Listen, there's no rhyme or reason for it. It was extraordinary, but that word was absolutely the epitome of that season. And I hate the fact that Neil gets to take the burden of the blame, because I think it's so unfair to give one man the blame. He built a squad at the start of the season that I thought was capable. When I heard that we were signing the Greek #1 as a goalie, I was over the moon. 6'5", Greek #1, yeah, beauty. When I heard that we were getting Elanusi back for Southampton, I'm thinking, yeah, beauty. When I heard we were getting Albion Ayeti, who's getting a transfer of 5 million, he's coming for West Ham, yeah, beauty. When I heard we're getting Shane Duffy, oh, that's exactly what we need. Somebody to win the ball, somebody will be dominant. So you can't blame Neil Lennon for assembling a squad that on paper looked as though it would take us to 20, it'd take us to 10. I just thought it was there. And then slowly but surely it began to fall apart. The whole ball and golly situation. I still feel very, very angry about Lee Griffiths, because Lee, I think Neil Lennon did lots for Lee in terms of his career and helping and encouraging him, made him a better player, brought him to the club. And Lee, I think, he might not agree, but I think Lee let him down because he came back out of shape. He wasn't firing all cylinders. We needed him. We needed him, and he wasn't there at that time. I think your man Eduardo had already in his mind decided to leave Celtic. So all of these things conspired. But Chris has put his finger on the biggest single factor: no crowds. The Big Jock makes it. Without the fans, football's nothing, right? Without the fans, nobody was there to inspire and encourage the club, and we suffered more than the other side did.
Well, you're right. There was for me, it's an energy, right? It's an energy that's created within a football stadium, be that bad energy or good. And I want to tie that in, Chris, to you fighting, right? Because I'll say right now, I do not have the kahunas to go into a ring or a cage and fight, no matter what. Even with gloves, Tommy, and refs and all that, I couldn't do it, right? So in terms of the energy, see, once you're in there, and you could be fighting to a home crowd, you could be fighting in Dublin, you could be somewhere else on the globe.
Yep.
What's that energy like? Do you thrive on it?
Yep. So I fought in the pandemic, I fought in COVID, I fought in Milan in an empty arena. We got flew over. This is what happened. We got flew over. We had to isolate in a hotel. I couldn't leave my hotel room. They had to leave food at the door. They then transferred me to the arena, the empty arena at the Allianz, big massive arena, empty arena. Couldn't really, to warm up with like a mask and stuff, it was fucking ridiculous. Took me out. I lost a split decision against a French guy that I thought I won. It wasn't the best fight, to be fair, but then exited right out of the arena, right out the side door, right into the hotel plane. And it was like fighting in a graveyard.
Right.
And me, personally, through my experience, because I've got like kind of like a cult following who follow me everywhere, they're loud, they sing, I'm quite known for having a good support. I need that. I thrive off crowds, energy. If you watch my last fight, the fights in Glasgow, like my entrances are like crazy, and that's what gets me going.
Brilliant.
For me, back to movies, but there's a quote in my favourite film, Heat. It's where it says, the action is the juice. And for me, the action is the juice. That's what gets me going, know what I mean? The crowd is the juice for me. And they walk out in Milan, you could hear crickets. You couldn't even hear the commentator. And I could feel everything, every kick. Oh, the first one you don't feel the adrenaline. I was literally talking to the guy and you could hear an echo in this arena. But a graveyard, hated it. Compared to fighting in big arenas where I win, place goes up, the place is singing. That must be the same as players, and especially like sometimes you could hear when you watched it in the COVID season. It was like you could just hear like the touchline, like if they score a goal, there was no that's no fitba. There's no passion. That's like watching an indoor reserve game or
He's
something.
used that word energy because that's what it was, isn't it? Because you must get extra energy
Aye.
for a
Aye.
crowd back, mate. A player, you lose a goal. Where do you get the energy to actually
Where's the demand?
get stuck in to get the goal back? It's not there. And our players, I think they were spoiled because they've got 60,000 every second week, giving them that energy. And then they're turning up and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
You see, you can hear people shouting. And
Imagine you're playing Rangers, right? We played Rangers, like they were putting stuff on the seats and stuff. You hit a good tackle. It's like an indoor reserve game. Like so usually when we win a throw, you're like, come on,
Yeah.
corner, come on. Like you need that, and that's to me that's maybe that would affect the players because they looked like they were half arsing it to me half of the time. So it's
But the thing is, Chris, you put your finger on it earlier, mate. Neil Lennon get the blame, and it was just, in my opinion, it was so unfair. I hope some people look back in terms of the crowds turning up at the ground and all the rest of it, and some of the abusive things and some of the throwing things at cars and all that. I hope they look back and regret what they did. Right? If they didn't, then I think they should hold their heads in shame because they're our players. They're playing for our club. And there was no right, I think, to give them that level of abuse.
You know, you were talking about the guys we brought in, you know, and you would think that when you sign a player, they'll leave with a great impression of the club. There were some of these guys who look back on their time at Celtic, Tommy, and it affected the Barkas and Ayeti and guys like that. But ball and golly, we needed a new left back, so we signed a guy for AC Milan, Diego Laxalt. So you're right, on paper it looked like we were doing all the right things, but it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So many things conspiring against us. But Neil Lennon took the brunt of it. As a fan, I was talking about it every day, Tommy. I spoke to you about it.
Yeah.
And there came a point where I felt a change was required. But in terms of the personal abuse and the personal attacks,
No, you always had differentiate. You always differentiated your criticism from a footballing perspective to a personal perspective, and that's dead important. You and I still disagreed because I can remember the season before. It's interesting. It was I'm pretty sure it was the Cluj game. Because you were talking about the Cluj game on your last, you were at it. And if I'm not mistaken, we went out the Champions League qualifier at home to Cluj.
you did, yeah.
And I was invited onto a radio show with the guy, Ewan
Cameron, yeah.
and it was because fans were then calling for Neil Lennon to be sacked. And I said, no, I'm going to defend him. And we had a game against Dunfermline, a Scottish Cup game against Dunfermline at home.
Yeah, yep.
And it nearly went to extra time. In fact, it might have went to extra time, nearly went to penalties, and James Forrest scored the winner. After that, we went on, I think it was a 25-game unbeaten run or whatever, and we ended up winning the 9 because this was at the time of us going for 9, no going for 10. People were calling for Neil to be sacked. People forget that was a pressure on him. And not only did we go and win the 9, we went and done it with style. We went to Ibrox and beat them 2-0. We absolutely scalped them. And from my point of view, everybody wants to bring up the bad stuff with Neil. Why are we not remembering the good stuff? Why are we not remembering the Barcelonas and the Skilton, them at Ibrox?
I think he won the treble that year as well, eventually, didn't he?
He went on to win the quadruple.
I know.
We won the quadruple, for God's sake. You know, but never mind that. Think he lost us the 10. As if he lost us the 10.
I think in Glasgow, like especially both sides, they're a tough crowd to please sometimes, especially if they lose a game or two. I remember this season, people were calling for Rodgers.
No doubt about
I heard that many times on the phone ends. You're just like, really?
Actually, because it's probably no, it's probably no this season. What it was it was last season, and it was after he came in because I was discussing it with pal Stephen earlier. And if you remember, we had the defeat down it to Kilmarnock. We had a draw with somebody else. Rangers were like something like 6 or 7 points ahead. This was last season, remember? And what did Brendan do? He actually went back. I don't know if you remember his statement, but he said the best winger we've got at this club is James Forrest.
Yeah.
And that was a signal. I'm going back to tried and tested, and he brought in the players that were there before, and when we didn't touch the ground, we went on and won it. This season, I think what's happened, Chris, in my opinion, is he's put his own stamp on it, because now we're seeing why he signed Kuhn. A lot is when last year we didn't know that Kuhn came with the injury, the dental treatment, he'd lost on it, weight and everything. And at first I'm saying to myself, Kuhn, for God's sake, why has he signed him? Now he looks like a superstar.
Unstoppable.
The fact that we've brought in the boy Engels, that we've brought in Big Ida, we're now at a situation. We've played the team that was second in the Italian league, second in the German league. We drew with that Italian team, despite them having the best goal record in the league, and we beat Leipzig. By the way, this is potentially, Chris, it's potentially a special season.
I know.
It's going that way.
Especially if we can rack up the cups and possibly get to the next stage. And I don't mean the 16, I mean the 8, because I feel we could beat Cluj. Young boys are bottom. That you should be asking for 3 points.
Bruges, you say Cluj, but
Bruges, and then young boys. If you can get in Zagreb away, you're going at Aston Villa, who could be already through. Battle of Britain, whatever you want to call it. I think we could get top 8, honestly. If we can get like 15 points, whatever. Why not? Because other teams are not getting the points they need as well, don't they?
That's a great point, Chris, because if you look at some of these teams that are sitting in Leipzig, haven't get a point yet. They're a great team, they're second in the German league. They've not got a single point.
Madrid and Munich are below us as well, so it's...
See if we could win. I'm honest with you, you end up, you're saying, oh no, I've jinxed it.
You're allowed to dream, Tommy. You're allowed to dream.
See if we could beat Club Bruges and Young Boys. I think we'll make the top 8.
You're looking good at that point, because I think all the stattles, they done was it Opto Stats, did 50,000 permutations, and they reckon to get into the top, the middle section, you would need 10 points. But then if you're looking at top 8, and if you're looking at 15 points, then that is part of the discussion. So you're right, Tommy, and why not dream? Because we're dreamers. That's what being a football fan's all about. But going back to something you were talking about earlier with Neil Lennon, what I always say is, if you ever speak to anybody who played under him, so Charlie Mulgrew recently, Joe Ledley, and someone who worked with him, Johan Mialbi, so we've spoken to them in the last 6 months, and they hold Lenny there in really high esteem. So a lot of people talk about his methods, Tommy, being old school, and he's not a modern manager, and I think he was called an analog manager and all this kind of stuff in a digital age. Just talk to the people that work with him, they disagree. They think he's a fantastic man manager. He maybe leaves a lot of the other side of things, the tactics, etc., to part of his team. And I always just feel that although he's always highly regarded with his ex-players and manager in Martin O'Neill, there is a section of the Celtic fan base who are yet to be convinced. But that day will come.
Yeah, they'll hold that against them. They'll still feel angry about that. But coming from a guy who loves Celtic and a guy who loves football, and I love playing it, I could tell right now I would run through a brick wall for a guy like Neil Lennon. Because see if you're playing shite, you deserve to be telling you're playing shite. Get the finger out, whatever, shouted it. If you deserve it, then aye. If you're a prima donna, these new players that don't like getting told what to do, then it's a different story. Yes, the game's changed, but I know for a fact I would love to play under a guy like Neil Lennon. Winners, you want to win, but that's because I love Celtic as well. And a lot of these international players coming in, they don't have that love that people growing up supporting Celtic or people who know the club do, you know what I mean? So I get it, but even like when I used to talk to KT, like he was the same. He loves Lennon as well. So I get it.
When's he coming back, Chris? January.
I don't know. I'll ask him. But another player who would give his all for the club because he knows what it means to fans. Even like try to win a throw-in or a tackle. That's a win. That's a win for the fans. They don't want to see players like moan at the fans either. They want just stay better. Just stay better.
You must have been so proud of Kieran, and was it the semi-final or the cup final? The one where he gets
Candace.
Cup.
No, it was the final.
Right,
It was the final because he came back to
You
lift the
must have been
trophy.
so proud of that, because if it's taken away, because he's teeth knocked
Aye.
out, but no, he wants to give
Well,
back.
the old private dentist, know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean,
It's the pictures of him outside Hampden
Aye,
running up the
up
steps.
stairs, aye.
fantastic,
I
man.
know.
That,
I
to me,
prefer the picture when he's just nailed, is it Candace or something, and he's just walking away. Just, I'm thinking, look back
What
at
a
you.
transformation, Chris, in him physically.
Yeah.
Remember, and I know a lot of that's natural, Tommy. You look at players when they're 18 against 22 and all that, but he must have worked beyond, above and beyond your normal training regime
Yeah.
to build that level of muscle.
It's because he was just focused on being the best player and being the best he can be. He wasn't out partying, he wasn't out clubs. I think he just played FIFA and stuff like that with his pals. So that's sometimes what it takes now to be at the highest level. There's no starting out like when I talk about the young ones about trying to be. I get wee guys come to me and say they want to be a fighter. They're like 10. I'm like, I want to be a fighter when I'm older. I'm like, no, you don't. First of all, no, you don't, right? But I would never. Cause I done things my way. I was out doing stuff that I enjoyed. I would maybe eat food that I enjoyed that I shouldn't. I just had a lot of things going on where I wasn't focused on being obsessed. And if you do want to be at the highest level, kind of like Kieran Tierney, he was obsessed. He was nailed down. He was switched on. And that's what I would say to the younger boys: don't do what I do. if you're really focused on getting to the highest level and getting the best you can at yourself, and that's what Kieran done. I don't think there was a harder worker in the team, especially with the older guys as well. You could see that when I think it was like Ronnie Dyer brought him into the team, and he didn't look back. He didn't look back. He was played now in the Premiership, won the FA Cups with Arsenal, Sociedad de la Liga, playing against Barca, Real Madrid. What a career he's had so far, and I think we'll see him back. Maybe not in January, but definitely at some point, and he would fit right back in, I think.
and how did you get to know Kieran, just because of locality or just?
Yep. So he came to some of my fights, and I played with Bullfrog in a Sunday amateur team, and that was his team. He was from that area.
Was his dad involved with running the team? I thought I heard something about his dad helped to run some local team.
No, I don't think he was part of the Bullfrog. His dad did come watch the games and that, but I don't think he wasn't like the manager or anything like that. But I just threw there, and he came and watched the Bullfrog games and that, and we had a good laugh and stuff like that. I always remember like my papa.
What a name though, Bullfrog.
I know. My papa used to love Kieran Tierney, right? And my papa's dead now, but one day he surprised my papa, and he came to my papa's house.
Oh,
right?
brilliant,
I know,
mate.
and I'll never forget
You
it.
love your papa. You were very close to him. Eh?
That's my guy,
Big
man.
influence on you. Yeah?
And I'll never forget that. He just like, my papa just sits on his couch, has his wee half, watches his programmes, just papa shit, know what I mean? I walk in with Kieran, and honestly, my papa's like, oh, I should have put a shirt on. No, he wanted to get dressed up, and he sat, and I'll never forget Kieran for doing that, and it's one of my happier memories, and because I don't think my papa really understood. I was like, I'm quite proud of Kieran, like when we watch the Celtic games, I'm like, I don't think he really believed me, you know what I mean? But aye, good memories with Kieran, and hopefully we'll see him back. But the guys at the left back are doing alright now. You've got Taylor and you've got Valley and stuff like that, and I think the team was just, there's a togetherness with that team. You can see it. And
Who's your favourite right now then? Who's your favourite in the team right now?
oh, that's a good question. If I had to pick somebody, it'd be Alistair Johnson. I love AJ. Like he's a big hockey fan, right? Which I like the Bruins, but he's got that fight in him, like that competitive, like he wants to win. Especially when you see him that he's dueling in the wing, like, especially against Rangers. He's not wanting anybody by him. He's adding goals to his game. If no AJ, Kyogo's my favourite. Like I love strikers, goal scorers, and you don't want to talk about his movement as everybody else does, but he's his inch perfect sometimes, Kyogo, and especially in the big games. He likes putting the ball in the net, Champions League goals, Rangers goals, and that's what Celtic players want.
Who did you say?
So, and I'm not just saying this, I've always said this, Tommy, right? I mean, if I think about favourite players, I could give you like a history of my favourite players. So when I started getting into
That's
Celtic,
why I said this team, because you're right. You can,
oh, aye.
you know, we've all got our favourite
Through the
It's just
generations.
This team.
Paul McStay.
To win this team.
No, but Paul McStay and Andy Walker, Tommy, for the centenary team.
Andy Walker,
Andy
right?
Walker, loved the guy, loved him. And then moving on, prior to that was Davy Provan. Moving on, I love the likes of Samaras. But see now, it's not the flair, it's the dedication of Tony Ralston, right? So he's a player that's played 107 games.
Hosting, I wasn't
10
expecting you to say that.
seasons at Celtic. So he's been at the club 10 seasons as a first team player, 107 games.
Do you-
Now, that's crucial. See somebody in your team that doesn't make a big fuss, doesn't throw the toys out the pram, is always ready to step in. So he's your understudy to AJ. But I think that's
Do you
crucial in
think
a team.
players like that don't get enough credit?
Not near enough credit. I'll tell you what, Chris, you've just mentioned him. For Scotland the other night, he was absolutely tremendous.
Yeah.
He never put a foot wrong.
He's
He's not getting a game at Celtic.
he's not done that for Scotland in a while. Like, he's always been great for Scotland.
Absolutely.
But the James Forrest thing, like before he kind of came back a wee bit there, right? But see, before then, all I seen was hatred, and I was like, that guy's gave his full life and his childhood, but you get up with, but he was paid for it. He was paid handsomely for it. You're like, you need to respect these guys. Have gave. That's a legend. That's
could
a
have left.
living legend. Aye.
Jamesy Forrest could have left at some point during his time at Celtic. Were Spurs not interested in him? He could have gone. Tony Ralston, it's not because of the flair and all this kind of stuff. It's just because he's dedicated. And I think
he's
you need
grafter.
people like that in a team.
Mhm.
What about yourself, Tommy?
It's dead difficult. It's horribly difficult because there are so many players, and how can you overlook Callum? Because his role in the team is incredible. But in terms of that wee je ne sais quoi, that wee special quality, I love Hatate. I just adore when he's on his game. He frustrates me when he's not on his game because sometimes he gives the ball away easily. But that guy tries things that nobody else in the park could do.
Aye.
And that's what makes him special. He does things for me that no one else can do. And I just love his creative ability.
Does it say something then that Chris Bungard chose the hard man? You've gone for flair and I've gone for the sub. That speaks volumes.
I think with Callum, he wins awards. He's the best player in the team with the ball. I think he's like, see, he's way to pass in these directions. Sometimes other players will put it a wee bit behind people. Everything's inch perfect with Callum, but I think it's because he does it so often. It's the norm. So people don't stand him out because he does it every week. I think, and we Hatate, see if he could start scoring more goals, because some of his shots are a bit wild. I'm like, if he could perfect that shot, I think you've got like a 30 million player, 40 million player if he had that killer finish.
When he came at first, he actually looked.
That
good.
goal at Hearts was
Remember?
ridiculous.
I think he scored in his first 2 or 3. And you're right, some of his shooting recently has been a bit wilder, and I don't know what that's to do with. But I've got to say, in terms of this whole thing about you mentioning Callum there, I mean, without him at the heart of that team,
Yeah, he's a heartbeat. He definitely.
in the way he took over for Scott, because we all love Bruni. I mean, that attitude of what a player. I was telling Chris what a pleasure it was to get to play with him recently.
He rubs it in here.
Paul John.
And I was playing with Bruni and Charlie.
I didn't get that in there. Because it was just a pleasure and a half to play with Bruni, to play with Charlie. Brilliant. But Callum comes in, and that's a hard act to follow. It's almost seamless. Brilliant.
No, I've got a funny story with Bruni actually. So to promote one of my fights, I got asked up to Lennoxtown to train with some of the guys and hit pads with them and take some shots and that, right? So before that, I've spoken to Bruni before, but it was only on socials. So I brought my football boots, but they were pink, right? Pink, I don't know why. I played amateur football time, my boots were pink, big deal, right? So I was like to Bruni, like, oh, fucking, I've got boots with me, man, but they're pink. And Bruni's like, I can't get them on me. Like, players have got pink boots, it's all right. Like, some of them have got them. I'm like, right, cool, in his dressing room. So I come on to the pitch, and Bruni's like, check him with the pink boots on it. I'm just like, oh, I'm no danger, man. Oh, they done me a belter. How can you know what I mean?
You know, wears pink boots.
How can you know
And
Bruni, man?
see, if you wear pink boots, you need to be fucking
be
great.
The good thing is, I could kind of back myself up if you've got pink boots, I can fight, so I can fight a bit, I mean, so.
You wound you right in. Chris, just before we wrap up, it's been an absolute pleasure again. Tell us about your next fight in March.
Right. So, well, I just fought last week, actually. This isn't for the fight. I got actually headbutted in training on Wednesday half my teammate by accident. But I'm now fighting in March, and it's a trilogy fight. I can talk about it, but I'll talk about it. It's one each. Gavin beat me in the hydro. He caught me with a submission, a choke, which I thought I was winning the fight. Well, I was winning the fight, but I got sloppy, got caught with a choke. That was years ago though, 7 years ago, the first fight. The last fight was last April in Manchester. He's from Liverpool, and I won that, and it was a war. But I did have my spinal issue in that fight. So hopefully, no injuries. We get to see who's the best out of 3. And I like the idea of a trilogy. I think it's got a story behind it, you know what I mean? So back down in Manchester again, so that's not really March. I can enjoy my Christmas and New Year. And then it's straight back to business. And I'm looking forward to really putting a solid camp in, a new strength and conditioning programme, good nutrition, and try and be the best version I can be and end this trilogy, my terms.
And I take it, Chris, there's no hatred there, there's respect, there's mutual respect.
No,
When you're in that ring, you're going for it hell for leather, you're trying to hurt him, he's trying to hurt you, but out the ring.
No, none at all. Spoke to him after the Glasgow one, I spoke to him after the Manchester one. He actually won last month, and I wrote on the post on Instagram, it was good to see you getting the win. Like, I was happy that he won, because I didn't know this was happening yet. And then they're like, look, this is what we're thinking maybe. I'm like, I like it. I like the idea. So I'll get a wee drink with him after it. 3 fights. I think once you share a cage with somebody for 1 fight, you respect them. If you share the cage with somebody for 3 fights and it's no bad blood, there's tons of respect there. Not.
Brilliant.
So,
I love that side of it.
but if he was a prick,
Well,
he would know about it.
yes.
Please no.
Yes, but I think to get to the level that you guys are at, there must be very, very few arseholes. There must be more decent guys.
Aye.
I think to stay involved, you need to be a decent person.
Aye. But you know what it's like, Tom? Like, the arseholes make money because they talk more.
Right,
They talk more.
Okay.
So you get the occasional one, and if somebody wants to play that game, I can play that game because I can be an arsehole, you know what I mean? But you would need to go there first. With me and Gavin, we're all respect. And 90% of the MMA community, they're all good guys. You get the odd idiot, and you get the odd one that wants to be the Tyson Fury or the Conor McGregor because they think that's the way you make money. And unless you've got the skills to back it up, then it's not.
One final wee thing. You talked about your entrances.
Mhm.
You never mentioned what is the music.
So my entrance is a band for the 60s called Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I come out to Bad Moon Rising. And I've always come out to it, so I would never change it now.
And is that, well, bad Chris?
Aye. So see, people put it on the gym. I say put it off because
Special.
when I hear that, it's time to go to war.
Oh,
No, it's time to go to war.
I like that.
So
when I'm in your company, if I ever get that song, I'm getting out of the way because I don't want to go to war with you.
that is you're flicking a switch,
Brilliant.
and then when the music hits, it's time to go.
Fantastic. Chris, will you come back and join us again?
Of course, after March, after a win, very good. We'll talk more Celtic.
Brilliant.
No, less films as well. Thank you very much, man.
Thanks again for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind. It was great talking to Chris, and we'll get him back on the show after his fight in March. Join us next Friday for This is A Celtic State of Mind.